Yo, what is up everybody, Joe the Great here, and welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today, we are reacting to an all-new anime enthusiast on this channel. A few of you guys have talked about him and recommended him. This is NCHAMMER23, and as you can tell by today's title, this video is Every Sharingan User Explained. Alright folks, so let this video serve as a test run for NCHAMMER23 on this channel. If he seems knowledgeable and a good power scaler, then we shall continue to react to him. So please let me know once this video is over if you would like for me to continue reacting to his content. And we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here today, and we'll see how he explains every Sharingan user. I'm very intrigued to see what he has to offer. But before I begin, any of those really appreciate it, hit that like button, turn on bell notification to stay up to date with yours truly. And if you're new and you enjoy, man, and you mess with a kid, make sure to hit that sub button, because once you do, become part of the family forever. But let's not waste any more time. Screen. Let's see what this video entails.
I don't want to do this, but everybody wants me to do this, so guess what? It's happening. So how about, since I'm doing something I don't want to do, you do something I want you to do, which is liking this video, subscribing to the page, and hitting that noti bell. So without further ado, this is the definitive rankings and explanation of the powers of every single Sharingan user, well, at least the important ones we see in Naruto and in Boruto. So obviously we need to start with the weakest ever user of the Sharingan that we get to see any screen time to, and that would be Itachi. Oh, you're so mad. Why are you mad? I'm kidding. It's Izumi. For those of you who don't remember, Izumi is Itachi's girlfriend and actually awoke her Sharingan before Itachi did. She was actually kind of a child genius. Most everything we know about her comes from Itachi's Shinden, Book of Bright Light. She awoke her Sharingan when her father was murdered by Kurama, like half of the village, and holy shit, that must have been a big night for Sharingan awakenings in the Uchiha hideout area. Running around like, you get a Sharingan, you get a Sharingan. She was able to train this Sharingan all the way up to a 3-tome. However, when she would use it, she would faint. And Itachi, refusing to be shown up by his girlfriend, actually died after using his. That brings us to our next installment of people who are
not mad at him saying she's the weakest that we've seen. That's fair, I
suppose. On this list of Sharingan users in terms of strength. Mikoto Uchiha, aka the progenitor of all evil, Sasuke's mother. Not a ton is known about her abilities outside of the fact that she had a 3-tome Sharingan and was a Jonin. The only place she ever really went wrong was having a second son. This brings us to our oldest person on the list, Tajima Uchiha. And right about now, you're probably saying,
Who is Tajima Uchiha?
And I don't blame you, because he's Madara's father. But just because you don't know him doesn't mean he wasn't a complete and total badass. He was actually the clan leader of the Uchiha when Madara and Hashirama were children. And he was Butsuma Senju's eternal rival, just like how Hashirama and Madara would become eternal rivals. He, like Mikoto, had a 3-tome Sharingan. If you're sensing a trend here, I don't blame you. But he was incredibly powerful with his Kenjutsu. Kenjutsu being the use of swords. But here's the thing, most people in the First Great Ninja War and earlier used swords more. The real testament of his strength is simply his age. He lived his entire life in a warring age with the Senju, and he was old. His entire life he fought and he managed to survive, which is a huge statement towards how powerful he was.
Fair enough.
Since we're talking about powerful Uchihas, it's about time we got to an installment that we know is actually powerful for specific reasons. That brings us to Kagami Uchiha, also known as Shisui's grandfather. But how do we know he was so powerful? Well, that's because Shisui openly admits that his grandfather was stronger than he was. Think about that for a second. This is Shisui of the body flicker technique. This is Shisui of the Kotsumatsu Kame. So, did his grandfather also have the Kotsumatsu Kame? What made him stronger than Shisui? And it's here that we have to make a couple of assumptions, but for the sake of an argument, let's say that he did have the Kotsumatsu Kame. which means he could simply rewrite a person's entire memory personality with a simple look. He actually doesn't even have to make eye contact with him to make them believe something fundamentally in their core. He could look at me or not even look at me and say, "You think you're blonde, and for the rest of my life, I would think this was blonde." In fact, he was so powerful, he was actually selected to be on Tobirama's protection unit. Think about that. How powerful does an Uchiha have to be selected to protect Tobirama? But he was also so powerful, he saved Danzo's life, which cleared up Danzo for, later in life, ripping an eyeball out of his grandson's face. Speaking of sons getting screwed over by Danzo, the next on our list is Fugaku. Fugaku is Itachi and Sasuke's father, and he's known by a little nickname as Wicked Eye Fugaku. Quite honestly, I think he's critically under-talked about and underappreciated. He, like Minato, at the same time as Minato, also had a run-on-sight order from other enemies, probably because he was called Wicked Eye Fugaku. I actually stand in the theory that him and Minato fought to see who would become the fourth Hokage, considering they were both the two most powerful people in the Leaf when the third stepped down. And he was powerful for a multitude of reasons. One, he was considered a master at Shuriken Jutsu. Two, he was one of only two people ever to be able to produce a fireball technique so large it was considered massive, the other being Itachi. And three, his Mangekyo Sharingan was probably the coolest one we've ever seen, even though we don't technically know its abilities. He awoke his Mangekyo Sharingan ability while watching one of his friends die in the Third Great Ninja War. And like I said, we may not know its abilities, but it is hypothesized that those abilities would have helped him control Kurama. On top of that, it is loosely implied that if him and Itachi fought, he would have won. Now imagine if Itachi had taken Fugaku's eyes.
Loosely implied? I suppose you could say
scary.
that.
But
It's not an outlandish
taking
claim.
each other's eyes, or at least having your own eyes taken, that brings us to Izuna Uchiha, aka Madara's brother. Izuna Uchiha is as powerful as Madara, at least he was while they were both alive together. Izuna was crazy powerful, capable of water bullet technique and great fireball jutsus, also incredibly talented with kenjutsu, so talented that he could actually keep up with Tobirama in a sword fight. And Tobirama is considered one of the strongest and definitely one of the fastest characters in all of Naruto. Well, he kept up for a little bit, and then Tobirama did a flying Raijin slice, which, that being said, if you've never seen anyone teleport before, a flying Raijin slice is gonna catch you off guard a little bit. On top of the Kenjutsu and the Ninjutsu, Izuna actually also awoke a Mangekyo Sharingan, the same as Madara's. And just like with Madara, we do not know the Sharingan's abilities. What we do know, though, is that those eyes got plucked out of his face and put into Madara's face. So even in death, Izuna was able to help Madara get just way more powerful. And he still lost the Hashirama. If you think about it, most of Izuna's accolades actually happen after his death, because he gives Madara EMS, and then Madara awakens a Rinnegan at the end of his life, and then he puts those Rinnegans into Nagato, and then those Rinnegans go back to Madara. Well, technically they go to Obito first, and then, and then Madara just dies with them. And speaking of people who are absolutely dead, next up we have Shisui. Yes, you heard me right, Shisui is dead. But that doesn't mean he wasn't incredibly powerful in his lifetime. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking,
Didn't you just say that Shisui's grandfather was stronger than him?
I said Shisui said his grandfather was stronger than him, but we don't know enough about his grandfather to put him above Shisui on this list. Are you insane? Sasuke also...
Alright, so here's the first, if this is a ranking, problematic ranking to me. He has Izune below Shisui, but he states that Izune is as strong as Madara, right? Now, I'm not going to say if I agree nor disagree. I think it is contentious, but the fact that he said that and then put Shisui above him is problematic. Clearly, Shisui, Itachi, and basically every other Uchiha besides adult Sasuke is inferior to Madara Uchiha. I think we can all agree with that. Shisui is nowhere near the level of Madara Uchiha. And he said Izune, Madara's brother, is on the same level as Madara Uchiha. So by saying Shisui is above Izuna, he's essentially saying Madara is weaker than Shisui as well, right? I'm just being pedantic. Of course, this is my first time seeing this. So far, it's a fair ranking until now. And so far, I really don't have a problem with anything he's saying. I think he's well read, and it's clear that he knows what he's talking about, mostly. Let's continue on.
Said he can now solo a Kaguya level threat, but I just watched him get curb stomped by Ishiki for like 40 straight episodes. I'm aware Ishiki and Kaguya are differently powered. I'm making a joke. Shisui's abilities are almost too numerous to count, even though he technically has 0 feats. He was known as Shisui of the body flicker technique. The body flicker technique being moving so fast you leave physical after images behind. On top of that, he had a fireball release so powerful, he had to use Anbu level water release in his mouth to not scorch his mouth, which makes a lot of sense. I don't get how everyone's always spitting fire out of their mouth. And I was like, I had tea that was too hot yesterday and I'm still in pain from it. It only took him 4 years to become a Jonin, which is unheard of, by the way. And on top of all of this, he had Kotsu Matsukame. We covered what it does when we were talking about his grandfather, but let's reiterate. He can rewrite your entire existence, put you under Genjutsu, and you wouldn't even know. Of course, it does close one of his eyes for 10 years, which, like, how did they know? You know, how did they know that that eye was going to get closed for 10 years? Kind of makes it seem like the grandfather used it, found out, and then passed that knowledge along, right? Speaking of passing, next up we have Itachi. Get it? Because he passed away? Where do you even start when describing the powers of Itachi? Orochimaru said he was stronger than him, and Orochimaru is one of the legendary Sannin. Obito told Sasuke that he let Sasuke win in their fight. Itachi only entered that fight to get Orochimaru out of Sasuke, which means that he was battling Sasuke, who was trying to kill him with an ulterior motive of simply helping him, and still pushed him to his brink. And I know every Uchiha is incredible at Shuriken Jutsu, but here's the thing. Itachi is actually considered to be the best Shuriken Jutsu user from the Uchihas literally ever. He could throw a Shuriken so fast it was imperceptible. And I haven't even mentioned his Monkey Kill Sharingan abilities yet. One of his eyes controls Amaterasu. Obviously, he doesn't have flame control like Sasuke, so he could kind of just blow black flames in a general direction and hope they hit what he was aiming for. But those black flames burn until you die if they hit you, or until he releases the jutsu. And in his other eye, he had Tsukiyomi, arguably the second strongest genjutsu in all of Naruto, only Kotsu Matsukame being stronger. That's why Madara wanted to use infinite Tsukiyomi to literally brainwash the entire world. Tsukiyomi can push you in a loop of pain for 72 hours, but here's the twist. It's only 3 seconds of world time. 3 seconds doesn't sound that bad, right? But it's 72 hours to the person under it, and it sucks. Ask Kakashi. On top of that, he also has the strongest Susanoo ever created, and guess what? It wasn't even perfect. His Susanoo is able to deflect.
To be even more pedantic, Itachi put the love of his life in a pleasant illusion when he caught her under Tsukiyomi in the novels, I mean. And it was her whole life before her very eyes, and I believe a picosecond, which is exponentially times faster than 3 seconds, which is hard to perceive as a human being who can't really perceive time and time frames that minuscule. A picosecond, I believe, is a billionth, if I'm not mistaken, of a second. And he was able to have the love of his life live out her entire life with him in a picosecond. To her, it was what? Maybe 80 years in a picosecond, which is a ridiculous feat. It just illuminates the level of detail that Itachi can focus on when you're caught in the Tsukiyomi. He is that deadly with it and that talented. But let's continue on.
Deflect any ninjutsu thrown at him. So how does Itachi deflect any ninjutsu ever sent at him? Well, in his left hand of a Susanoo, he carries the Yata mirror. And the Yata mirror can literally change its chakra nature depending on what ninjutsu is being sent at it in order to nullify anything ever sent at it. To describe how utterly insane this is, the Susanoo is considered the perfect defensive mechanism without a Yata mirror. This means even if he wasn't using the Yata mirror, most jutsus wouldn't affect him. Now he doesn't even have to worry about the jutsus that would affect the Susanoo. But what's in his other hand can't be that great, right? Wrong. In his right hand, he has the Sword of Totsuka, which, if you're ever pierced with, will seal you in an infinite genjutsu called the World of Drunken Dreams. What's the World of Drunken Dreams? Well, imagine the dizziest you've ever been and then trap your soul in that feeling for the rest of eternity. Unless you're Orochimaru, then you just climb out of Anko. Sounds pretty unstoppable, right? Well, technically it was, but he was too stupid to take Fugaku's eyes and get EMS. Therefore, his overuse of Amaterasu, Tsukiyomi, and the Susanoo in order to capture the tailed beasts and fight other Akatsuki enemies literally killed him. Yes, it's implied by Obito that he took medicine for a separate disease, but it is unequivocally true that his overuse of the MS sure as shit didn't help. Speaking of Obito, guess who's next? Obito has an insane amount of pros. Most of them were grafted onto him by Madara. Just like Sasuke, all of his power was given to him by somebody else. Well, of course, except for his Kamui, which he could use to teleport certain parts of his body to a separate space-time dimension, essentially making him unhittable. Obito was left with the one Kamui that worked on his body, while Kakashi was given the one Kamui that worked on exterior bodies, like things thrown at him or ninjutsus, anything that wasn't Kakashi. Even though Kakashi can technically use his Kamui to enter the Kamui dimension, so what's going on there? A little lesser known fact about him, however, or at least one that people tend to forget, is that his genjutsu was also insanely powerful. So powerful, in fact, as an act of revenge for them putting Rin in the situation where Kakashi had to kill her, he went to the Mist Village and found Yagura and put him under a genjutsu. Yagura being the third Mizukage, also the Jinchuriki of Isobu. How bad was the genjutsu? Couldn't have been that bad, right? Well, you're wrong. Obito's genjutsu essentially trumped up Yagura's bloodlust to its absolute boiling point. Because of this insatiable rage and anger that the genjutsu caused in Yagura, he actually created the Blood Mist Village, causing him to kill comrades in order to find the strongest people. And this went on for years until Ao came to the Mist Village and used his stolen Byakugan to see that Yagura's chakra networks looked as though he was under genjutsu.
Right.
So yeah, creating the Blood Mist Village was a side project for Obito.
Yeah, Obito's genjutsu was
On top of
ridiculous.
That
is
his
very
half White
overlooked.
Zetsu body allowed him to use wood release, because White Zetsu was made of Hashirama's cells. And since he had Hashirama's cells, he also had an insane regenerative ability. So much so that even using his Kamui every day, any chance he got, like he did, his Kamui never got blurry or blind, because any damage he did to his Kamui was instantly healed by the Hashirama cell. Speaking of damaging Obito, next up is Kakashi. A lot of Kakashi's pros are very well known. He's one of the favorite characters in all of Naruto, but the first and most well-known, I would say, is the fact that he is known as Kakashi the Copy Ninja. Kakashi, just by watching you do a jutsu, can copy it and remember it for later use. Using this method, he has copied over 1,000 jutsus. On top of that, he actually is the owner of one of the strongest summons in all of Naruto. His Ninken summoning, also known as Ninja Dog summoning, allows him to bring 8 dogs or just one individual dog to his aid at any given moment. And each of those dogs brings a different set of abilities. The most well-known is obviously Pakun, who is an incredible tracker and can speak. However, the rest of the ninja dogs are also capable of forming combat strategies, digging underground and sniffing out enemies, popping up, grabbing them so Kakashi can Chidori them just like he did to Rin. And because they're dogs, they're all incredible trackers. Also, like, if we're being real, it's easily the cutest summon out there, bar none. And we already talked about his Kamui. He's able to open a rift to a different space-time dimension where he can get rid of anything from his dimension he no longer wants in his dimension, like True Secret Orbs or Datara's arm. But when he got both of the Kamui, he became one of the strongest people in the history of the show. For one, he was now able to teleport things outside of his body and his body, making him essentially the perfect melding of both Kakashi and Obito. But more than that, he was given the strongest Susanoo in the history of Susanos. Using Kamui shurikens, Kakashi was essentially able to throw a projectile the size of a small cow at an enemy and have it jump between dimensions on its way to you. That doesn't sound terrifying? Well, it should, because it's essentially unescapable. Kakashi could simply throw a shuriken that will bisect you if it hits you, pop it into the Kamui dimension, and have it pop out directly behind you. Speaking of bisecting people, you can ask Tsunade about this one. Next up, we got Madara. There's a lot about Madara that the average public just doesn't know. My hair has just decided to quit mid-video. He technically was a sage master, though he never trained in senjutsu. He would just naturally take in nature energy. Little tricks like this helped him once he fought for 24 straight hours with his Sharingans activated. He had massive reserves of chakra. Oh, and on top of that, he was one of the best sensor type ninjas ever born. He could literally detect someone's chakra from villages away. We don't know what his Mangekyo Sharingan abilities were, just like with Izumi, but they were so powerful that they were able to control Kurama, and so powerful that they were able to put Kurama in a summoning contract with Madara. Not to mention he could then put Susanoo armor on Kurama, and don't even get me started on his actual just Susanoo, because it once cut a mountain in half. Also, he was a genius. He literally programmed one of his eyes to use Izanagi on him so he could rewrite reality and bring himself back to life. Say what you will about the end of Shippuden, but if Kaguya had never shown up, Madara would have won. Speaking of the end of Shippuden, the next installment we have is actually from Boruto. Everyone's favorite Uchiha, Shin Uchiha. I did just say Shin Uchiha is stronger than Madara, and that's because he is. I know that sounds absolutely bonkers, but I need you to realize how far in strength Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura came from the War Arc to Boruto. Naruto is between 4 and 5 times stronger. Sasuke is between 7 or 8. Sakura is probably close to 20 or 30 times stronger than she was in Shippuden in Boruto. And that's who Shin Uchiha was fighting. Shin fought
I don't know about those multipliers,
Naruto
but
and Sasuke
they are stronger. That's the point.
Simultaneously in these stronger forms. And I know what you're saying, Sasuke slapped the taste out of his mouth, and you're not wrong, but Sasuke himself says that he can battle 1v1 against Kaguya level threats, and Kaguya would kill Madara. So yes, I said it, and I stick by it. Shin Uchiha is probably as strong, if not stronger, than Madara. But where does that strength come from? Well, one, Orochimaru made him so that any foreign tissue grafted onto his body would stick. That's why he has so many Sharingan, because you can just throw a bunch on him. But here's the thing, none of those Sharingans have eyelids. They're all always constantly activated. Do you guys know how much chakra it takes to keep a Sharingan activated for even just a short amount of time? Shin Uchiha has like 17 Sharingan constantly activated them, and one of them is a Mangekyo Sharingan. His Mangekyo Sharingan ability allows him to teleport anything he marks, a bit like Flying Raijin, or anything within a specific area of him when he activates it. On top of that, it also allows him to control anything that he touches. Therefore, he uses it on a bunch of weapons and uses them as little flying objects that he throws at his enemies. And obviously, people are going to want to be like, oh, beefed up 10-10, but here's the thing, he's a lot stronger than 10-10. Also, there's like 60 of him. Speaking of Shin Uchiha, we have another person from Boruto with a Sharingan, and that would be Sarada. Obviously, I stand on the take that Sarada will one day become stronger than Sasuke. If you haven't seen my video describing how she will surpass him, it should be right about here. Go ahead and check it out. But for the moment, we'll just call her simply the second strongest Sharingan user of all time.
Nick, that's a ridiculous take. She hasn't even awoken her Mangekyo Sharingan yet.
You're right, but also her story's not done, and I am scaling off potential here. Sarada was able to awaken her Sharingan not by watching someone die. Nope, just by having her shitty father come home to her. She proved that it was strong emotion in not 8 that can awaken a Sharingan. On top of this, in the manga, she already has a 3-tome Sharingan, and she showed us in the village hidden in the mist arc of Boruto that she can already copy jutsus simply by looking at them, essentially making her and Kakashi on equal footing. On top of that, take into account the fact that her parents are Sakura and Sasuke. For those of you who haven't read Sakura Hiden, I'll briefly explain why it's so important. For 3 years after the war arc, Sakura trained on both her physical strength and speed. And during these 3 years of training, she achieved speeds similar to Might Guy in his 8 Gates form, and that was in base mode. And she is already the strongest person in the leaf with chakra assistance. Sarada is inheriting both that speed and that power, and it is widely assumed that she will also inherit the Byakuya seal, also known as the 100 healings. This 100 healings will allow her to essentially limitlessly use the Sharingan
it's a
and
great
the
combination
Mangekyo
if you think about it.
Sharingan without any damage to her eyes. Think of the way that Obito was able to escape eye damage for years. But how will she surpass Sasuke? Well, like I said, you're gonna have to go ahead and check out my video on that. But for the moment, understand that Sarada, lowballing, will be at least the 2nd strongest Uchiha of all time. Which brings us to our first and most
Alright, so adding on top of that, first of all, you gave a pretty good assessment of Sarada power scaling wise. I do agree she probably will surpass Sasuke. It's just part of the inevitable passing of the torch that has already commenced, with Naruto and Sasuke being nerfed. It's just a clear, inevitable passing of the torch taking place. Narratively, it holds, so I agree. Secondly, Sarada, as a kid, blitzed an Otsutsuki level threat in Boro. Boro is an upper tier member within an organization of Otsutsuki level threats, at least in the upper tier, right? He's at least, we could say, as strong as someone like Toneri. At least. He's probably beyond that. And Sarada was able to blitz him with just a Sharingan. She doesn't have MS. She doesn't have any crazy abilities yet. And she was able to blitz someone of that caliber. And almost one-shot the guy, who was only able to recover due to his hacks and his strange abilities, as we all know now. That's fucking insane. Sasuke at the age was what? In the fucking Chunin exams? Fucking battling Orochimaru? And towards the end, fighting Kid Naruto to a standstill where he barely beat him. Sarada's fucking fighting Otsutsuki level threats, right? And although I know it doesn't make sense, in fighting-based animes, there's an inevitable upward trend in the caliber of villains, and hence in the caliber of the next generations onward. So inevitably, the children of Boruto are battling some fucking monsters, at least the main shinobi, such as Boruto and Sarada and Mitsuki. It's inevitable. And inevitably, we have to put them in a whole different level compared to the old generation of young shinobi, such as Kid Naruto, Kid Sasuke. They don't even touch that level. Not even close. They don't touch that level until the end of Naruto Shippuden. Sarada's already up here. Already, which is fucking insane. So yes, I do agree she will surpass Sasuke. It's inevitable. And I do agree she might possibly be already the 2nd strongest Sharingan user fucking ever, even now. Which is fucking insane to say. She's just a kid. But when you do think of it, she is the daughter of Sakura and Sasuke. It only makes sense, right? It has to make sense, whether we like it or not. It is what it is. It's an inevitable, undeniable truth. But let's continue on.
Fortunate entry on this list, Sasuke Uchiha. So, plot armor's abilities, he's got a lot of
course,
them.
Sasuke's
Just like
number
with
one.
Madara, I'm not going to be covering his Rinnegan abilities. That's for a separate video. Sasuke has all 5 chakra natures and yin release, and he manages to do like 3 jutsus? Kirin, Chidori, Fireball. He has EMS from his brother who let him win and take his eyes, and in one of his eyes he has Amaterasu like Itachi, and the other he has Kagatsuchi, which allows him to control the form at which that Amaterasu takes shape of unlike Itachi, who kind of just had to blow it in general directions. There's nothing special about his Susanoo. It's smaller than Madara's, not as specialized as Itachi's, and not as versatile as Kakashi's.
Okay.
Hey, but one time he had access to all 9 tailed
I'd have to
beasts.
see the exact measurements.
Actually, no, he still lost. Yeah. Oh shit, I'm forgetting one of his most important abilities. He's also got the ability to recruit people who can act as walking plot armor, like Karin, who can heal him in seconds from fatal wounds, or Jugo, who can recharge his chakra in seconds. But yes, he is the strongest Sharingan user of all time. Whew, okay, that was an absolute slog to make. I'm happy I did it, but I'm also happy it's over. If you guys enjoyed it and liked watching me suffer, then boy, oh boy, do I have some news for you.
Valid
There's plenty
video,
of suffering in the
NCHAMMER.
future.
Valid
So
video.
go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. We post 3 videos about anime a week on this YouTube page, and I would love to share them with you. Here's the thing. I want Sarada to take Sasuke's eyes so she can have EMS, but at the same time, I don't want her to have a little part of Sasuke with her.
All right, there you guys have it, and I do want to give my take on this. First of all, valid video by NCHAMMER. He clearly is well read on the Naruto verse, and if I'm being super pedantic, I could find some small mistakes or flaws, such as putting Shisui above someone he stated to be relative to Madara Uchiha. That's fine though, it's not a big deal. Overall, well done. I was actually impressed with some of his points, such as the Shin point. Made some great points, because we all fucking hate Shin, let's be honest. But objectively speaking, he gave Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto some trouble to some extent, right? They were rusty, right? They weren't taking this guy as seriously as someone like fucking Momoshiki, but they're exponentially times stronger than they were in Shippuden when they fought Kaguya and Madara, etc. So inevitably we have to put Shin at a high level. I hate to do it myself, right? And if I was in a debate, I would try to find something rhetorically to counter that, just for the sake of me hating Shin. But if I'm being objective, he probably is up there, unfortunately. I hate to put someone like Shin above Madara Uchiha, but what can you do? What can you do when you're giving someone like Sakura, Sasuke, or Naruto trouble at that level? It is what it is. But, like I said, NCHAMMER's valid. He's a valid Naruto commentator. I was pleased with his commentating, with his takes, with his scaling. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. So, overall, he gets a thumbs up for me. And please let me know what you guys think of him. Would you guys like for me to react to him more often in the future? Please let me know that as well, right? And speaking on Sarada, right? I want to speak on Sarada a little bit. Her potential is somewhat boundless, right? NCHAMMER illuminated on it a little bit. She could have the 100 healings plus possibly EMS. Because I believe Sasuke's going to die and give her his eyes. It only makes sense, right? It's a very logical thing to conclude. Or his eye, I should say. So it only makes sense. It only makes sense that that is what's going to take place. So her having 100 healings, EMS, and speed, at least relative to her father. Strength relative to her mother. Jesus. She's going to be a fucking monster. Monster. It's going to be insane. She's going to be at a freakishly high level in the Naruto verse. Just like Boruto, of course. But, yeah, Sarada has incredible potential. And I believe she's overlooked a lot because obviously the main character, Boruto, is the one to focus. And Kawaki, of course, as well. But yeah, she's probably right now already the second strongest fucking Sharingan user we've ever seen. Blitzing in a Sasuke level threat as a young shinobi is fucking insane. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But yeah, folks, this was a good video. Again, let me know your thoughts on NCHAMMER. Let me know your thoughts on the Sharingan users. And how do you think they rank? At least the ones we know of. Was his ranking valid? Was it not in your eyes? I'm always interested to hear your guys' thoughts. So let me know what you guys think about that. And of course, if you have any other recommendations, let me know in the comments as well. But this is JTheGuy signing out with another video. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Bye.